Turn up the volume here a little bit.
This is too much technology. Too much. I have no idea what's going on. Like,
All right, can you hear me now?
uh-huh.
All right, make sure. Cool. All right, yeah, this definitely looks different than the last time we met.
Yeah.
Um, it says live, and I have an option to stop the broadcast if things go south.
Set the timer.
There's certain words that'll shut down shut down the thing. So I appreciate you meeting with me again as we learn how to do this. Us middle-aged people that don't know how to how to do this yet.
It's not us. It's Google Plus. It's like the most confusing. Like, it's so easy to use. It's confusing.
Right. Yeah, over the weekend I was I think I better learn how to use Skype and another recording option just in case. But weekends get away from you, and you're like, oh, here it's Monday. It better work this time. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me again.
My pleasure.
Let me pull up. I don't have your book up, but yeah, I was telling people that we were going to get a chance to talk about the book we collaborated on, the Asa Wessel book, and I still feel like sometimes I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah, I wrote the story, and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying this title correctly. And talk about your wonderful A to Z monster series that you have going on, and some of the other things that you have going on. Because as we chatted last week, that nobody will ever see in the wonderful conversation that we had, our pre-flight or test. We had some good thoughts. So just for other people as they watch, give a little bit of history again about the A to Z book and the series that it began with.
the Monsters A to Z was originally a book that I put out that I just challenged myself to create a monster for each letter of the alphabet,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them, like it started with Argmont, which is of course A, and go and that made a screaming sound. So I created a monster that screamed at people, like to surprise them, and then just went on down the line through each of the letters and just tried to create something different, and also trying to explain maybe a common occurrence that people see. Because like with Monster Ate My Socks, like I didn't realize that I kind of stumbled upon this thing of, oh, here's this cute explanation for what happens to it, and that became sort of what my monsters were about. Like the ink bats is what whenever you see stains and you don't know where that came from, or when a light bulb goes out on the street, that's a flicker wisp, or an SOSL is kind of that. An SOSL is maybe that thing that you see out of the corner of your eye, but I actually think that SOSL is more of a kind of a self-contained lesson in being satisfied, which you completely picked up on in creating the book.
Right.
Monsters A to Z has been kind of it's kind of popular, kind of not, kind of going back and forth. Amazon put it in the alphabet learning category.
Right.
Because, yeah, as you know, we don't have 100% control over where our books go on Amazon.
You noticed that too.
Monster Ate My Socks is in spine-tingling horror, and I'm just like, yes.
Just for the people that haven't read the book, my 3-year-old reads it. No, it does not count as spine-tingling horror. Let's get a backup on that one.
Thank you. It got some good reviews, and it also got some negative reviews because people thought that it was an alphabet reading book. And for me, it's more of a book about kind of exploring imagination. And just kind of the possibilities of what's out there, and kind of a springboard, and much less of a storytelling book as more of a book where you can read it with your child and create a conversation, and maybe the child goes off and makes their own monsters. I would love that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just a different way of looking at the world. So we did a BookBub promotion on it, similar to what you did with Kevin, and except mine completely botched. It was originally going to be a 99-cent promo, and when I went to change the price, it wouldn't allow me to change the price from $2.99 to 99 cents.
Interesting.
And this is the night before BookBub, okay, and you know how like serious they are. They're like, no problems, no.
Yeah.
And I started having a panic attack. Finally, had to contact Amazon, and there's a little-known rule that only applies to it's very rarely applies, but apparently, if your book is over a certain amount of megabytes, it can't go below $1.99. And if it's beyond that, it can't be below $2.99. And I had just remade Monsters A to Z to be full screen Kindle, full color, and it's a 50 megabyte book. Yeah. And so they're not going to like that. So yeah, so I ended up, I was like, well, can I change this to a free promo? And so we put it on free. But anyway, yeah, I can't make it 99 cents, but I can make it free.
Okay, well because I know that with the Kindle Count, with the free versus the 99 cents Kindle Countdown, you know, you can only drop it down to 99 cents after a certain amount of time or something along those lines. Yeah,
it's after 2 months of the 70% royalty rate.
Right.
You have to, and that's kind of the flaw of that whole system, is that it kind of traps you into a certain pricing scheme. That at 70% royalty rate with Monsters A to Z at $2.99, I would maybe get 5 cents off of a sale because of how large the file is.
Right.
And it's just like, nah. So anyway, that's no matter here nor there. What I'm actually getting at was that after the big promotion, got like 100 5-star reviews. There's a lot of good feedback on it. Gave away a ton of books, and we started seeing highlights, because the Kindle will show what other people have highlighted in the book, and almost all of the monsters had a highlight, or had multiple highlights. And Essel Wessel, yours had, I think, like 15 highlights or something on it. So that gave me an indication that not only were people enjoying it, but the kids themselves were picking their favorite monsters. And around that time, I was losing a little bit of creative juice. I was just I felt like I had told all the monster stories that I had.
Well, 26 is a lot.
And but you know, I told you this before, that it was kind of this miraculous inspiration or something. I felt like I was compelled to do this series, and like I said, I couldn't add. I figured, you know, 2 weeks a book, 26 books will be done by October, and I couldn't multiply. Sorry, I can't even. And I started looking for other writers because I said, since each of the monsters are so different, then wouldn't it be neat if each of the stories, the storytelling is different? And if I was to write all of them, I feel like after about 5, you would start to see a pattern.
Right.
And so that's why I started looking for and working with other writers, and that's been really cool. I've also tried to, with each book, illustrate it in a different way. And also each book has a different, is put together differently on Kindle. There's 4 of them that use the full screen Kindle rotation, all that jazz. And then the rest of them use their traditional reflowable. Inkbats was interesting because that has a full layout, and the digital version is completely different from the print version. I think the print version is far superior, but it's allowed to kind of like this playground of different ideas, different types of stories. So far, the people who follow my work have been very receptive to it, because I'm an eclectic writer, so they're kind of okay with, who knows what the next story is going to be like. The next one that we're working on right now is a Shakespearean's a couplet poem. And
wow.
I got in trouble with the edit because I broke the couplet, and oh my gosh, so we had to fix that. But and I've given the writers an immense amount of freedom. Did you feel constrained by it?
No, actually. You gave me some good ideas when I first sent you the way, for those listening, you had sent me kind of an outline or a thought on, or let me rephrase that. You had asked for an outline. I sent you the outline, and then you sent it back, and I went, you know what? He's actually right. He's correct. I'll fix that. And so we kind of went from there. The interesting thing is the word count, keeping it under, I think you had said 3,500 words. And that's always the interesting thing that I find when writing children's books and talking with other teachers about it, is how hard that actually is.
Yeah.
I hear of other writers writing 70,000, 100,000 word books, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds hard on one end. On the other end, trying to tell a full story in under 3,000 words is very hard. I was talking with a colleague the other day about like how the very first Kevin book, I looked at it the other day in Word, and it was about 1,600 words. Well, if I were to go back and redo it today, I'd probably cut out about 200 to 300 words. It was almost too long.
Yeah.
And I had told other people, I said that I had not originally envisioned my Kevin books to be chapter books. I had envisioned them to be like 3 picture books. But I'm just not that smart. I'm not that good of a writer to turn these stories into 1,000 word to 1,200 word stories. I started writing Kevin and the Three-Headed Alien, the first sequel to the Kevin book, and it just became, a chapter book. And I found that really worked for me and for that series. And so, in fact, I actually just reread Kevin and the Three-Headed Aliens in my class as part of the class read aloud, and was like, yep, that was actually that was a good flow. But just, to wrap up of how hard it is to tell a story in a short story format or in a picture book format, just how hard that is.
Yeah, I think it's a good constraint to have, and there's definitely an attention span shrinking happening right now in our country and the world. So I do think that we're starting to see more and more stories, especially picture books. That I remember at the SCBWI conference, they were saying that the target for picture book word count is now around 250 to 500 words, which is just like, okay, that's enough for like a setting, or like, I don't know, but the word count, the outline that I gave the writers was intended to kind of say that you can have any length, just be aware of like if you do a 500 word thing, then it's going to be a picture book, and I'm going to do a ton of illustrations, and the illustrations will probably be cartoony because I have to do them fast.
Right.
Oh wow!
I just switched. Yeah, I was like,
now I'm big. Okay.
So you're seeing that on that end too.
Yeah.
Boys and girls, anybody that's watching this is the first time we're doing this, so we're learning. And I was like, let's watch a guy with hair for a while.
So
do this.
So the up to if somebody does around 3,000 words, then I'm going to do far fewer illustrations, and that was really the kind of guideline. I actually did. Somebody I'm working with recently said, like, I don't think I can put it in under 3,000 words, and I'm like, then make it 10,000. Like,
exactly.
That's fine. The thing is, however the story should be told, that's how it should be told. However it's best served, that's how it should be presented. Like, I don't agree with formulas, but I do agree that restraints can restraints and restrictions create art.
Right.
The Shakespearean sonnet, the couplets, those all are a constraint that can make for some pretty cool innovation. Until the whole, and until that can of course be taken too far as well. So.
Well, I think you're right. I think watching people outside the children's world, I'm thinking of right now Hugh Howey and Michael Buckner and those guys that have written these science fiction books, and then they're almost serializing them into like 10 to 15,000 word groupings, and then when they get 5 or 6 or however many together, then all of a sudden, look, I have a book. I find that an interesting approach too. I was going to try it with my next middle grade book. I'm finding it though to be very hard kind of situation, or at least harder than I expected. But you're right. I think when I talk with other non-writers, they typically tend to hear, "Oh, your book is 100 pages long," or "Your book is." I'm like, no, you no longer think in terms of pages. You're not a high school student anymore thinking, "Oh, I've got to turn in 5 pages." No, you think in terms of words, because they could be illustrations in there. There could be the font size, the Kevin books I have out, they have a certain font size, they have a certain spacing because of the level of reader that I'm aiming for. That there'll be spacing between paragraphs. I saw one writer say he hates that. I'm like, well, I'm writing for 8-year-olds, and there needs to be space between, there needs to be space between the paragraphs occasionally. So that's why when I explain to colleagues or other non-writers that, now I'm in the world of thinking of word count, so that, and so sometimes that word count can hinder you, but I tend to agree that it really brings out the creative juices of like, I've really got to cut out this, and we've really got to tell the story straight to it. So.
Yeah, that reminded me of a couple of things. Over the summer, I visited my parents, and one of my friends up there is a middle school teacher, 4th grade, and but she taught 1st and 2nd grade for a long time, and she was telling me about I forget the term, but they call them like first page books, where the child can read the first page and understand every single word that entire time. Right. And that those books are the ones that kids predominantly attach to.
Right.
Because it's the one that gives them the sense of accomplishment and the one that doesn't intimidate them. So I've recently tried to, that's kind of guiding a lot of my newer writing work, of just trying to be as simple as possible and as clean as possible, to the point where, I've done some experiments where there's maybe like 150 words on a page, like it's that sparse, like just really, and that's been some of my favorite writing, because the kind of ballooning inflation of word counts happen whenever I feel like writers, whenever they're over describing a situation, or going too far into a character, and a lot of times I read that and I start to glaze over because you already know that. Like, saying like, we're going to lose the house. She sighed, disappointed, because she was about to lose her house. And
I'm thinking of the. I'm going to upset some people right now, but I'm thinking, oh gosh, what is the famous Showtime show? The Dance with Dragons. Not
Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones, yeah, those books. HBO. I just upset a lot of people right there. My wife has those, and they're, you talk about word count, and that just made me think of that, of like, you watch the show and it's a very enthralling show, and then you read, then you look at the book and you're like, that's like 5 doorstops right there. And so, and I've started reading them. My wife has read them more than I have. But just when I think of what you were just describing, that's kind of what pops into my head there too. Of just this, like maybe there are too many. Maybe there might be too many words there in some cases. But
going back to what you said about the serialized books, I think that's kind of a new way of publishing, and it's a response to the ebook market and a response to an oversaturation of choices and of entertainment options, where you can. It's much easier for a writer now to do some development work and put out like a test pilot,
right.
Like they do with television shows. Put it out there, say, to your audience, do you like this? It was a very low upfront investment. If you don't like it, then it's gone. If you do like it, here's more. And there's a book called Write, Publish, Repeat that I read. This, and that's basically their thought process. They do pilots of all of these different crazy ideas that they have, and the ones that take off, then those are the ones that continue on. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of a I want to say democratization of the art form, because you're allowing audiences to tell you what you should be writing, and that's kind of a conflict with me, because I both agree with that and disagree with that.
Right.
I agree with it in the sense that I was told by my audience that they like the monsters, they like Monsters A to Z, they like the Sock Monster, all that stuff. They like AJ Cosmo monsters. Awesome. Okay, here's as many monsters as I can give you. And on the other point, there's books like The Dream Deliverer, Princess Polly, The Imagibles, which I love, Lighthouse Orphanage. These are pieces that I've done that almost nobody has picked up, but I do them because they're what speaks to me.
Right.
And I actually think that in the long run, those will be the pieces that I will be remembered for. If this continues.
Well, hopefully it will. And I think my thought was almost like, because the gatekeepers have come down, or there are less gatekeepers, this idea of the democratization of what we write, we have a quicker feedback to what our audience likes. Mm-hmm. I kept writing myself because people told me they liked it. My original thought, I know that sounds silly, but I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but my history as an independent writer began because I wanted to actually create a paperback, not even a Kindle. The original Kevin book, because I was a first grade teacher at the time, was envisioned as a paperback that I would sit there and hold it, flip back and forth with the kids, and then I wanted to create just one, and be able to put it in my classroom, or maybe even take it to an interview, and go, Mr. Tiller, what differentiates you? Well, I've been teaching da-da-da-da. Oh, no, so I made this book, and I found that was very powerful. Well, lo and behold, I started putting up the pictures as they came in on Facebook, as they came in from my illustrator, and I had people going, this is amazing. And they're like, and I remember one person go, I can't wait to read this book. And I'm like, okay, you have my attention. And because Carla Tracy at the time, it was like one of her first jobs, and so I underpaid her criminally for that first one. That economically, that book made its money back very quickly. It was profitable very quickly. And so, in all fairness, I paid her a lot more for the other ones in the future. But that was how mine began, was that people on Facebook were just like, no, this is really good. And then the reviews on Amazon started coming in, and so there was almost like this immediate feedback of, like, you need to keep writing. And so do people have hopes that happens? Sure. But my goal originally 2 years ago was just to have a paperback, and if I bought a copy and my mom bought a copy, boom, it's a success. But luckily, it was I got enough feedback to say, we want another one. And so that was how I kept going. So that was my thinking on that. So
that's wonderful. I mean, to have that kind of support network, to have that kind of build up, one of the things that I actually lack because of my speed is the build up.
mhm.
It's like there's a new book coming, it's out. It talks about this, like, my mom is a year behind me, like, but I create to create. I mean, I create as a living, and I'm not going to shy away from that. I do feel that people, creatives, writers, artists, we do deserve to make a living. We don't need to make a ton of money, but we do need to be able to get by. And if people respond to your work, and if the world says yes, then we should be able to make enough. And right now, I actually see that as the creators have less incentive to create than the aggregators do. So there's a lot of competition right now because there is so much content that is created daily that is free.
Right.
And we haven't really, as a society, figured out how to compensate everybody for their time. Right. And it's really just the people on the very top of the pyramid that make any kind of financial. They make insane amounts of money.
Right.
But what I'm kind of advocating for is that needs to be a little bit more even across the pyramid.
Right.
Rather than this kind of, are you number one in Amazon? No? Okay, then sorry. Like, all the while, like, Amazon is the one that is okay with, they're making money off of everything, and then there's
right.
that one that is pulled up to the top.
Right.
And I've talked about this before. I've been pirated before.
Mm-hmm.
I've had Monster Ate My Socks was pirated in a Chinese website. That was fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, I should be flattered because it was Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Monster Ate My Socks. I was
interesting.
Like, yeah.
I saw on YouTube that it was like this computer-generated thing. They had taken the words of my second Kevin book, Blurb, and had turned it into this electronic, like, book preview, and it was like this electronic, Kevin and his friends are going to make, and I was like, that is, somebody made a video of my thing. I was actually kind of flattered, and then shared it on Facebook.
I've had those too. They're a little creepy. Have you had the garbled reviews on Amazon?
Yes, I've seen those. I've seen one, and then I saw one show up on Goodreads, and I'm surprised that Amazon has not taken those down yet.
I feel like that is a marker for a bot that downloads books and returns them.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that it purchases the book, rips the book, leaves that review, and then refunds and then returns the book.
Oh.
It scans for that garbled text for each new book that it goes on before it executes the program. Yeah. Yeah. What are we going to do? Like, what are,
Well, I have seen my book appear on, I've been not as highly pirated as you, but I have, like, when typing in, I've seen it appear, and I go, at this point in my career, I'm kind of like, you know what, I'll take that as a compliment. I mean, what would I rather be? A person that has a book out and nobody wants to pirate it at all, or, it's kind of, and then, yeah, I just read from other people. It's hard to feel it or to see it, but that they're just going to be pirates no matter what. Yeah. And so if when I create my books, I don't do the whatever the protection is, because I want whoever gets my books to have the ability to save it onto the computer or whatever. Yeah. But on the flip side, I did notice this. This was, and maybe you'll have this experience now that you're doing print books. I give out copies of all my books on Goodreads for advanced reviews and that kind of thing. Lo and behold, I found one on Amazon that was signed for sale. So apparently, I've sent out dozens of them. And so somebody had gotten one that I had sent out through a Goodreads giveaway, and it's signed, and it's the third Kevin book, and they're having it for sale, used, signed. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm not going to get any money off of that sale, so there's that thought of that, I don't know, is that pirating? Is that not? I'm glad that the person is selling. I hope they get to sell it. But it was just kind of weird when I realized, they're selling it for $2, and then it's special because it's signed. And I was like, I didn't sign. Oh, yeah, I know how they got that. Kind of, because I would send out, about 10 or so because I can only afford a handful. But that's how they got out in the country. I don't have. I'd read somewhere that the very first Harry Potter book gave out 500 copies, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have that budget to give out 500 copies. But that was
and it wasn't even. It didn't really ignite until I think the second book was out.
Yeah, second or third book. That was kind of interesting there too.
Yeah. There's something else that getting back to we talked about the democratization.
Yeah.
I actually kind of see what's going to happen with literature as more collaborative in nature, and the Monsters A to Z project is kind of like the beginning of collaborative storytelling, and I think the end result is actually going to be user collaborated storytelling, where the stories actually change depending on what the user puts into it.
Okay.
And I just did an article on for kid literature blog. I'll post the link up later, but basically saying it was this debate between print versions and Kindle versions, and which is superior, and when will ebooks kill print? And the long and short of my article was basically saying that this is a false argument, because they are separate mediums.
Right.
And you are currently comparing like a television to a CD player.
Right.
And they're both forms of entertainment, but I really feel like e-readers are in kind of the nascent, the early stages of their life cycles, and we haven't even begun to see really what they're capable of. We have apps. We have apps like crazy that do all kind of stuff, but even that, with the EPUB 3 format, the EPUB 4 format they're working on, Mobi, Adobe Digital Press, we're actually able to do a lot of stuff with ebooks that cannot be replicated in paper.
Right.
And there's stuff with paper that cannot be replicated with ebooks. And so I kind of feel like right now the view on ebooks is that they're another distribution channel, and you just take your content, recycle it, make sure the formatting is correct, and throw it up on an ebook. And then there's also this prevailing opinion that ebooks are like having a Kindle is like the way to hide your shame about what you read, and so you have this little thing and you're reading Twilight, but nobody has to know you're reading Twilight, and it's like okay, but I did that book, The Dream Deliverer, which is a choose-your-own adventure book. It's just done with HTML. But that thing, if it was printed out, would be over 500 pages long.
Right.
And just completely cumbersome, like to go through. But if you read it, it's a story that every time you read it, you get a different story, because you're in charge of putting the pieces together of how the narrative unfolds. And I thought that was just a really fascinating experiment. And just kind of the surface of scratching the surface of what can be done with this format. And whenever I create a book for the Kindle, like the images are specifically for the Kindle Ratio, the layouts are for the Kindle, even the edits that I do will be specifically with the Kindle in mind. And like what we did for SOSL, those images, they're 640 by 480, or 600 by 800. Sorry. That's the screen of the traditional Kindles. I used to, back whenever the Paperwhites were more popular, make sure that all of my illustrations also worked in black and white.
Right.
So that they would show up on the e-ink readers. So where am I going with all of this? I'm basically saying that I think more authors need to pay attention, or more creatives need to pay attention to the mediums that they're telling their stories on.
Right.
And going back to the serialized things, the serialized novel is a reaction to paying attention to the Kindle as a platform.
Right. Right. And I think, and then people will also reference that not apparently, but that like Dickens used to do that with his books too. So there's almost like this, if you want to talk about a history of fame, well, yes, we're doing it with the Kindle, but you know who else did it? Charles Dickens, kind of situation.
Well, the Green Mile by Stephen King, that was
Yes.
done as a dime store serial, where
Yes.
you would subscribe to it, and every month you would get another section of the book in the
Yep.
mail. We could have subscription services to, I mean, as far as Amazon is concerned, there's a lot of innovation that they haven't explored yet. With the Kindle Unlimited, wouldn't it be neat to subscribe to a writer that every time...
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, bam, it's in your Kindle already. And wouldn't that be good for us, because it's already like a guaranteed readership?
Yeah. I think I was I don't remember the name of it, but there's actually like a crowdfunding company that almost like patronage or something like that. Yeah, that's it. Where people will give you money monthly as long as you're putting out blog posts or music or anything like that. And I thought that's a wonderful idea. I think that could be something possibly you could do because you're prolific enough. I am not there yet. Writing for me gets done from about 6:15 to 6:45 in the morning, and then sometimes in the evening. I have a day job. I'm currently in my Mr. Tiller uniform right now, and so that's what I look at.
You used to be gardening with Mr. Tiller.
I know some students of mine are going to find this video and go, Mr. Tiller, we saw you on YouTube. That's what it is, because they've done it. I've watched them in the back of the room type my name in, and it's my picture will appear. So I know they're going to find this video. So this is my Mr. Tiller uniform, and somebody's going to look at it and go, oh, that was Monday. He was wearing a Monday tie when he took that video. With the patronage kind of situation, that is a very good idea of kind of if you're prolific enough to be able to get it, and if you can get a big enough platform out there, you could almost in this 21st century have patronage of people. Not just, I'm in Virginia, you're in California, not just people from LA or people from Richmond, but people from Europe and Australia and all over the world, if you have a big enough platform to be able to do that. And so that could be something that could be in your future. While I'm thinking about it, can you share a little bit about you were talking about the EPUB 3. Can you share a little bit about your plans for the iPad? We had talked about.
Thank you. No, this month we will be releasing. I hope soon. It will be soon. There was a book that we did called Monster Manuel's Field Guide to Neighborhood Monsters, and it was supposed to be a more realistic version of Monsters A to Z.
Right.
And it's dealing with cryptids, like cryptids being like Bigfoot, and species that science does not yet recognize is cryptozoology, and that book's already out on Kindle. But what we've done is using Adobe Digital Press, we've actually reconfigured the entire book with sound effects and animation and really interesting like scrolling things. Like there's the book goes left to right, up and down. So to go between monsters, you swipe left to right, but if you actually want to see more about the monster, you swipe up or you pull down. And when you come to the monster, it automatically plays what the ambient environment sounds of the monster sounds like. There's a little play button that shows you what the monster itself sounds like. And then there's the reading material, additional illustrations, and also since all the monsters are tied into a natural phenomenon or reference other animals, there's information about what that actual thing is. And so it's kind of a first step towards a more holistically interactive kind of experience. And haven't really gotten down the hang of creating games yet, but that's going to come. And this is just like really a test project, but already it's just incredibly exciting. It's just going to be renamed Neighborhood Monsters, and it's going to be on the iBooks. I don't think there's going to be a Kindle version of it other than the one that's already out.
Right.
So a lot of the old younger titles that I've done that we renamed Gene Willikers, which I think we're turning it back to AJ Cosmo. Gene didn't work out. That they're going to become iBooks in the same sort of format. So like Duckfish and The Day the Sun Slept In, Little Star, Go Panda. I don't know why people hate Go Panda, but people hate it. I don't know why.
I haven't looked at that one now. Now, after I get off with you, I'll have to go check out Go Panda and find out what the problem is.
I think I pulled it. It had 2 stars.
Oh.
What did I do? Like, because the story was just like this panda loses a race. He loses a go-kart race, so he gets disappointed. So what does he do? He finds the rival, trains with the rival, gets better, and then he wins the race. And for some reason, that's like, they're like, oh.
Well, that would maybe. Do you typically tend to get negative reviews when you do a free promo? I've heard people talk about that, or do you track it enough to know?
I don't. I never ask for reviews. I don't respond to reviews.
Right.
I just let it be. Whatever happens, happens. And the free promotions, the only one that I have concrete proof of that gave reviews was the book club.
Right.
And there were 23,000 copies of Monsters A to Z given away, and it got 100 reviews.
Right.
So what's the percentage on that? Like,
very, very low. Very low.
Yeah. And my goal is to create something that you feel so strongly about that by the end of it you do want to leave a review.
Right.
And to not put too much matter in there that would prevent them from getting to a point where Amazon would ask for a review. There are people that manipulate their books in order to force a review to pop up.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think that's a good idea. What they do is they cut out the back matter entirely. They cut out both the front matter and the back matter. So what you're left with is just the book itself. So by the time you get to the end, it pops up the review.
I actually saw a review of a book that we discussed last time that recommended that was how they did that.
Yeah.
That in the series, said, well, I kind of like the book until I have to leave this review to leave the book, And I'm like, what I do, the worst I do is just now I've started just, hey, if I'd appreciate a review after you read the book.
Yeah.
That's the extent of my effort on it, having read other authors that have been successful about getting reviews. They have noticed that, hey, if you just put in hey, help me out a little bit, then that's the extent that I do. I was not aware of the technical space of it.
We're in quite a conundrum about it because the reviews only seem to matter if they're negative.
Mm-hmm.
I have books that are not popular that they have nothing but 5-star reviews.
Right.
And then I have like Sock Monster that's sitting at 4.5. It can never get to a 5-star because it's
right.
had over 600 reviews, and at this point, it can never achieve perfect because
right.
there's too many. And Amazon just punishes you when you get 1-star reviews. They'll just and that leaves this enormous power in the hands of a consumer, and it also leaves power in people that some of my favorite reviews are by children.
Right.
And there's a review for I think Monster Ate My Socks too, that it says I love AJ, love monsters. I hope the next book, a war breaks out and all the monsters fight each other. Awesome, I love this book. One star. One star. And
because you're number one. That's why. That's exactly.
I mean, like a third grader, you get a gold star on.
Exactly.
Or a first grader, you get a gold star on a test. It's like that's the best.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
You know?
You're in first place. You're not in fifth place. You're in first place. That's exactly right.
And then Amazon's algorithm pick that up and be like, customers obviously don't like this product. Like, you know, and it's just, what are we fighting against here? Like,
I have, I had a 1-star review on the very first Kevin book, and it was as I was still learning. It was during one of the free promos, which kind of prompted my question earlier. A woman had picked it up and thought that it was for like her pre-K or for her kindergarten kids. Well, it's 1,600 words, so no, it's not. It was more for first grade. So I learned the hard way that way of like, oh yeah, I guess from now I better start putting in my books are this many words. This is what they're aimed at. And then I will give Amazon credit for that. A couple of months ago when they started putting out, if you're making this for children, when you publish it, they give you grade levels. And I actually appreciate that. As a teacher, I have a little bit more understanding of what words aim to certain grade levels and where I'm aiming for. So I actually really appreciate that. But that was an example of a 1-star review that happened to me. But it never, for me personally, it didn't stop that first Kevin book. It didn't nail it in the ground. My personal experience, or my understanding the way the reviews work is the more reviews you have, the better. So, like for example, your monster book of the 600, the 600 count, that's fine. I would say that it's fine that it's never going to be perfect 5 stars, simply because I'll be honest. I tend to find when I do look at books, I will look toward the negative ones to see has somebody actually read it. And then go, I totally disagree with these 5-star things. I'm thinking their brothers and sisters are leaving the reviews kind of situation. I've left reviews. I'll leave a lot of, if people ask, or if somebody I know, I will, or if somebody asks me to leave a review, a lot of times, and if I like the books, a lot of times I'll give them a 4-star review. And the idea that, this is a good book. It's not, I don't want it to look 5-star and then say this is the best book I ever read. I tend to think, 4-star, it's a good book, pick it up, and here's what I like about it. A little bit more honesty in the review.
Yeah, Goodreads apparently is like between a 3 and a 4 is actually really good on Goodreads, and 5 is like reserved for Moby Dick or something, but not even Moby Dick would get 5.
Yeah.
I don't believe Freeway is a name. 1 star. By the way, if you want, I wish I had the link on me right now, but they're Google 1-star reviews of great novels.
I think I've heard that, but we'll have to check that one out. Yeah, because then it makes you feel better that when you see a 1-star review of Moby Dick or a 1-star review of a classic movie like Star Wars or something, or of Casablanca, just off the top of my head, I was talking about this the other day with a colleague of mine. As teachers, a lot of times we get stuck into a kid gets an A on the test, and so that kid knows this and he's done it right. I take, for example, my middle grade book, the Dolben School book. It had the worst review ever on Goodreads. The woman hated it, didn't give it any stars, not even 0. Just none, just wouldn't even, but wrote a long one on it. And I was like, okay. But then other friends of mine have been like, no, we love that book. When is the sequel coming out? And I've had enough. And then I finally got a review on Amazon. Somebody had written, this is a great book. The characters are well written. I'm not giving it 5 stars because it's too short. And I was talking with my colleagues about it. I said, well, who's right? You know, which person is right? The human brain tends to put more emphasis on the negative, you know, and I had done that with this very bad review. But then I kept getting other people that were like, no, we're serious. Somebody, a friend of mine, had texted me, said, my child is late to soccer practice because they're reading your Dolben book. Please stop that. So I'm like, well, you know, who's right? Is it the kid that really likes the book, or is it the adult that hates it? You know, which is right? And so that's just how it is.
They're both right and they're both wrong.
Right.
We all have opinions, and you know, we're all entitled to them. And I think the problem is that right now opinions aren't weighted at all.
Right.
Right. A Nobel laureate has equal footing with an internet troll online. So it, you know, that and that's another thing I kind of wanted to. I've never talked about this. I don't even know if I should talk about this, but on the matter of reviews, there have been other independent authors that have attempted to systematically take me down by. There's one reviewer that goes through and for a while every book that she could find of mine she would give a 1-star review.
Huh.
And then there was another. There's been several authors that have used Monster in My Socks as an advertising platform. And I did not respond to this, but they put like, this is a terrible book, but if you want a real good children's book, here's my link. You know. And I'm like,
wow.
Who does that? Like,
wow. Wow.
So there's a lot of room for manipulation. I think that people are beginning to like distrust individual reviews and more trust gestalt of it. I know that's kind of what I see. If I'm buying a new product, I'll look up the reviews, and you know, if it gets like if it's 3, then but if it's like around 4, you know, maybe either way, then yeah, there's a lot of opinion stuff. So you read through it and you see, okay, what were the problems with it?
Right.
My favorite negative review is one where I was accused of supporting puppy mills.
Okay. That's,
yeah.
okay.
Do you know the book My Pet Raptor?
Yes, I do actually have that one on my Kindle. Yeah.
Okay, that one, a lady got into an argument. The original negative reviewer got into an argument with somebody she thought was me, but it wasn't.
Right.
And then she went on a tirade about how, you know, these like AJ Cosmo's books may be fun, but he is an awful person that is argumentative and yells at people, and I'm just like, never responded to a review. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you've just been yelling at me this whole time. Yeah.
and so the ending of My Pet Raptor, to spoil it, cover your ears. The kid adopts a raptor, and then it tears up the house, and so he has to give it back. And it finds out that there was Raptor Farms, which was nearby, who takes the raptor back because it had escaped. Okay. Apparently, Raptor Farm is a metaphor for puppy mill, and I was endorsing the caging of puppies for the purpose of pedigree mills, and I'm just like.
Wouldn't that story? There's a story there as itself. Wouldn't that story be like? You have the guy. I'm now thinking of the guy from Jurassic Park, the grandpa. Wouldn't he be in a house with 2 raptors in the backyard, and then him selling them? You know, and I'm like, and of course, as soon as I get off of this, I'm going to go write that book right now.
Richard Hammond is the name of the character. I don't know. I just like. whenever I was writing it, I had painted myself into a corner because I had to explain where a raptor came from. Not to mention that the raptor's basically just a dog. Like, it rips the carpet up and stuff, but that's just kind of the whole joke of it, is that it's a velociraptor. It's like an incredibly dangerous dinosaur that we're glad is extinct. And nobody would say, "Mommy, can I keep it?" Reviews are tricky, but that's what we do. We're putting ourselves out there, and anyone has the right to judge us.
Right, exactly.
And what I've been most pleased about is that people, when you take the stance of anyone can judge me, but I will, of non-resistance, then you actually get people that will come to your defense.
Yeah.
And will come out and say, "No, I know that guy. Like, this is not his. This is not him." And in that way, I think that's a much more powerful statement than if you were to go up there and get into somebody's face about it.
Exactly. All right. So, well, and speaking of, one last thing that I wanted to at least share, speaking of getting out there, my understanding is that you might be starting school visits soon. Let's share some information on that.
Well, I know for sure. I really need to know the name of this town, but it's going to be the first ones that I know for sure is in March in Virginia.
Okay.
And I do not know the town or the school. But I'd love to come to visit your school as well. We are planning a print version of Monster Ate My Socks.
Okay, I'd love to see that one.
Once that comes out, it's going to be like an expanded, updated print, extra layout stuff. Once that comes out, hopefully next month, and I actually have something that I can give people, then I think that I'm just going to go to any school that will take me.
Well, once you find out your date of the of your school in Virginia and where it's located, that's like maybe we could schedule a visit to my school, because it is kind of funny. It's like, "Oh, you're in Virginia? I know somebody in Virginia. Do you know so and so?"
I get that with LA all the time. Right here,
It's like, "Oh, I know somebody in LA. Do you know so and so?" No, I don't. Exactly. Yeah, because I think, and you and I had talked about this before. I'm a teacher, so I'm in every day with my target audience, and I'm very lucky to see that. That's also the reason why I only write from 6:15 to 6:45 in the morning. But that's a wonderful thing. One of my blogging things, what I've kind of developed about, is the idea that teachers should be writing. Even because I always hear from teachers, "Oh gosh, I have this wonderful idea for a picture book," and da-da-da-da-da. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. And then what happens? I have kids, I've got my job, and so that kind of goes away. So I've been trying to get more and more teachers involved and kind of share my experiences of my kids fighting to get copies of my books. I mean, that actually happened. Like, we had to have everybody sit down, calm down. There are 2 copies, and no, you're not going to get the first copies now that we had to stop this. Or kids wanting to read the book in class. I want more teachers to have that experience.
Yeah.
So that's growing into my mantra or my niche or my writing situation. So
I would actually expand that. Excuse me. I would expand that a little bit further. I think really anybody. And you said last time that there was a difference between self-publishing and publishing professionally.
Right.
That it's not just traditional. There's vanity publishing, self-publishing, traditional publishing, and then I like what you said, professionally published.
Right.
And to go out there and to really understand what you're going after if you want to create a writing, because I've yet to meet somebody for something they'd like to see created. I think it's human nature to be storytellers.
Yes.
And everybody has their turn around the campfire.
Right.
That's so and I think that people need to really experiment with writing as a creative process and understand where it goes. I see far too many people thinking that they're the next J.K. Rowling, and far too few people saying, what is the best way I can express this,
Right.
or what is the best story that I can tell, or the best, how can I make this as true to myself as possible, instead of dystopian young adult novels are hot right now. Let's try dystopian young adult novel.
I was talking with another teacher one time. I said, you don't want to aim to be J.K. Rowling because that's lightning in a bottle. You can't plan that. Not that she's not talented, she obviously is, but to have that sort of monumental success. You want to aim to be R.L. Stine. Because R.L. Stine, because not necessarily writing the horror, but he was writing. I'd heard on NPR one time that at one point in his career he was contracted to write a book a month, and I'm like, that's what you want. That was his deal. Maybe you can't aim for a book a month, but that's what you want to aim for. That. If you have a choice between J.K. Rowling, who wrote amazing books, but also got just lightning in a bottle. You can't plan that, but you can plan to write a book every month, or plan to write a book regularly. You can plan to do that, and so if you're going to make a choice, go with that. But looking at our time, we spend a lot of time chatting. So yeah, it's a well, yeah, well, let's talk about that, and then because I know that anybody that is watching this, if they're still here, they are true fans. Yeah.
I think what we talked about was interesting.
Right,
I was like,
right.
anyway,
Right.
no, SOSL. What I loved about it was that it actually has a negative ending.
Right.
It's so far, that's absolutely the best contribution you could get to that project, because everything else has been so positive. Everybody goes home happy, everything,
Right.
and you understood that monster well enough, and you understood the situation and what it was trying to say, that it was just, I love that. Because the SOSL is never satisfied,
Right.
and it cannot be your friend for long because it will get bored with you.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's happened to everybody.
Right. Right.
You have these flash in the pan friendships that mean the world to you, and then one day they just stop calling. And I think that it's a really awesome to have a book out there that a parent could look at and say, here's the situation, here's a story that kind of helps with that. And you did an amazing job with that.
That's high praise coming from you. I've always appreciated your feedback on that, because when you gave, I shared with this last time, that when I contacted you and you said, yeah, that'd be great. At that time, my 3-year-old was reading your book a lot, and there was a monster in there. I'll be honest, I don't remember which one, but I was like, oh, I want that one. And then you came back with 3 choices. Shoot, oh well. That wasn't, and then
I would have given you it.
I don't even remember. Because I thought at the time, I was like, you know what? The guy has probably got 12, all the other ones taken. And so, then when you had your 3, I went back through and I saw the SOSL, and that story just immediately appeared in my head.
Awesome.
That was right there. I was like, boom, we got it. And so I enjoy. So it was a lot of fun. So we could tie it back toward that, what we were talking about earlier, where you have limitations on your creativity, because instead of me going, I have 25 choices, can I do this one? It was much better for you to, here are your 3, and then you can go with this, and that, I found that to be a great exercise, to be perfectly honest with you, to go, I have the description within the book of what the SOSL is. I know what he looks like, so I can describe him when I'm writing. It was a great creative project to be able to do that. And then when you had sent me pictures and you had asked me about, well, is this fine for you? And I was like, really? You know what? I have what it's supposed to look like in my head, but I've always loved getting pictures back from the illustrators to just kind of take that idea and just say, oh my gosh, it has life. You know, it has life that, oh, I didn't even think of it like that, you know, and I love that experience. And I remember when I saw the book on the Kindle, because there's the one picture of Sam underneath the car, and it might not have been the most interesting drawing for you, but I found that and he's looking for, like, where's the monster, where is he?
Oh no,
yeah, that was really good. That was really good.
That image is the entire story in an image.
Right.
I spent I mean, compositionally I spent a long time on that one.
Okay. Well, it came through. It came through then.
Yeah, I think that one. My other favorite is the Esso Wessel peeking out from behind the tree.
Yes.
That's like an E.T. moment. Like, I love that. And then it doesn't turn out well. But no,
boys and girls, this is the sad E.T. Yes.
E.T. was sad.
Yeah, no, I think about it. I was 9 when that came out, and I wept like a baby when that one came out. Yeah.
No, it was everybody's in white suits and they have shotguns. Everybody's screaming and, like, yeah, it's like, okay. The monsters that the monsters books have not come out in sequential order. They've come out in order of who's finished them. And they have been given out by the whoever I felt the writer would work with and respond to the monster the most. And Esso Wessel, for some reason, spoke to me with you. I think because your stories predominantly deal with this kind of the early struggle of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, how do you deal with, like, 3 completely varying different opinions on how to hold a film festival, or you know, how do you deal with everybody who has a different opinion on the film that you're making itself, and you know, what do you do when somebody just turns away at that? And so I felt like Esso Wessel having the friendship like that really kind of responded to, like, Mariette, she's who did Inkbats. She has a family, and she has two boys and a husband that just constantly make messes all the time, everywhere. And so Inkbats was perfect for her because this is the monster that is the embodiment of a mess. And so we've gone on and just tried to find the right, pair up the right monster with the right writer. And some of them have been really difficult. I'm working with I consider Esso Wessel to be one of the hardest monsters.
Oh wow!
The others, there's some that I think the Oog, which is the slime monster, is probably one of the hardest too. But the hardest is the Rarely Seen.
Right.
Because it can be anything. It's the unknown monster, and I've been looking for a mystery writer to write that one.
Okay.
And I have a candidate right now, and it all seems pretty. I'm pretty interested in that because it's the Rarely Seen. That's one that I might have gone back and done a different monster.
That's good. but that yeah, because I remember talking with my daughter about that one, actually. Go, yeah, he's the Rarely Seen. He's kind of hidden in the shadows, or he's behind the doors. And so I remember talking with her about that one because my wife would sit over by her and read the book with her sometimes. And so I explained to her, I said, I think that's what's happening. That's what's happening there. And so I appreciate the feedback on my writing too. That you're exactly right. That one of the things I like to write about, I personally like writing about, is friendships. Is writing about. I rarely like stories where there's just one person. I like to have a group of, because that's not life. Your life is several different people together. So I like writing about that. Well, I'm going to need to sign off here, sir. Sir, it has been wonderful, and I appreciate your time, and we will definitely be in touch. All right? Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Have a great night.